John is running 4 main deck. He has 3 Bonfire, 2 Dreadbore, a Gilrick, a Mizzy of Mortars, 2 Putrefy, 2 Rakdos Return, 2 Tragic Slip as his removal suite, and 4 Threat-Tusk, 4 Huntmaster, 3 Olivia, 3 Ooze. So your pretty standard mixture of threats and removal spells and what have you.
Right. Looking at Matthias' deck, he has 6 basic lands. That helps him in a slew of ways against Burning Earth decks and against, especially getting your non-basic lands are a detriment to you against any red deck nowadays. It's not even safe to play it. You see he has Augur showing Terminus. What do you think about this matchup? I think Jund usually has a stranglehold against most control decks. The only thing going in Matthias' way is the 8 counterspells main deck, which might give him a better shot than, let's say, a Planeswalker version of control or even the blue-white-red version. I
personally would want to be on the Esper side of the matchup. I think blue-white-red's a little bit behind Jund because, maybe not this game as Matthias misses his 3rd land drop here and is without white mana, but I think trying to win through basically creatures is very challenging against Jund because they have so much spell removal, but winning through Nephalia Gyronard and a bunch of counterspells, I think, is a pretty good recipe.
I agree with that, yeah. So we'll see. John is going to be playing a 3-mana spell. We've seen this card played pretty much in every deck that has access to black.
It's a Lifebane Zombie.
Just the ability to go in there and just take a white or green creature is pretty powerful. Obviously, against Matthias, is usually going to miss. I mean, you have Restoration Angel, and that's it.
So you're looking at a hand of a bunch of spells. We have a Supreme Verdict, a couple of Azorius Charms, a Terminus, a Render Silent, a Dissipate. But again, without a 3rd land and without white mana.
And that's a problem, again. A lot of times people will look at 2-land Augur hands and then keep them. It's pretty rough to keep a hand like that. With especially when you're playing 4 Think Twice and a lot of cantripping, you can mulligan into pretty reasonable hands. But it looks like Matthias gambled and is not going to pay off at this point.
It's especially rough now that his cover's blown. John knows about really the Syncopate is the only card that can offer resistance, and so he's got, he can afford to just simply play his spells with the mana left over.
Turn 5 Huntmaster and a turn 6 Thratus is pretty bad for him anyway. So, and if you saw his hand, he has not only the Huntmaster here, he also has Rakdos Return. So at any point when Matthias is trying to come back to cast spells, he's going to meet a pretty bad fate here. It looks like he drew a Godless Shrine, so he does have the 3rd land, but maybe too little too late here. We'll see.
It's a little rough for Matthias because he really would like to play something on his turn.
We know what's going to happen.
He can't really do that unless he plays Azorius Charm, and then, again, his counters still don't do anything, so missing those early land drops has obviously set him back in a number of facets of the game.
Right. I think in this scenario, you're in just deep trouble anyway. He's obviously going to play spell main phase to stop Huntmaster from flipping. He's just going to cross his fingers and say, please don't have Righteous Return. And with another land, he gets a return for 4 here. That is a huge dagger. That is, especially with all the stuff on board already.
You see John come across here. I assume we're going to see 1 block on one of the 2/2s and 5 damage dealt.
He's actually going to just play more creatures. I mean, I like this play instead of the return, actually, thinking about it, because at some point, Matthias is going to play a main phase spell to prevent Huntmaster from flipping, probably a Supreme Verdict, and then John can really hammer him with that Righteous Return.
Yep.
And he does draw the land here, but he's missing a 2nd white source, so Verdict is not in his future.
And we often talk that these 3-color decks is basically a free roll for them to add a 3rd color. Matthias has definitely been getting punished this game for, that doesn't have a white source of mana. Now he has a colorless land in play that prevents him from casting certain things.
Yeah, he's also playing 5 colorless land, which is curious. It's tough to, if it works, it works, but 5 colorless lands, you look at your hand sometimes and you look down, you have a Ghost Quarter, Drowned Yard, and, an encroaching waste. It's not going to be a great day for you.
So going on to the sideboard games here, as John is quickly up the game, he has access to 3 copies of Liliana the Veil. Pretty powerful here. Again, Matthias' deck is really about generating kind of a raw, massive resources through cards. So the +1 on Liliana and the Threat of the Ultimate, both very potent. He has 2 copies of Duress. Again, Esper very spell heavy, so that's powerful there.
Right.
2 copies of Rurik Dar, the Unbound, which is extremely powerful against
very good card.
Spell-oriented decks. And 2 copies of Underworld Connections, which is another powerful tool in any game that you expect to go along.
This is why Jund is a powerhouse is because every card it brings in is an auto win almost. Liliana unchecked, auto win. Underworld Connections almost entirely results in a win if it goes unchecked. Rourke Thar has to be Supreme Verdict. There's no other answer to it in his deck. He has no non-Supreme Verdict answer in the main deck, but he does bring in 3 Detention Spheres, maybe. And against Jund, the only way he can win is to bring those Detention Spheres in, but then you have to keep your fingers crossed, say, please, I hope he board out all my Abrupt Decays, because if he didn't, I'm going to get blown out here too. So besides the 3 Detention Sphere, he's going to bring in Negate, which is obviously a super powerful card against Jund, because almost every Jund card that's good against you is a spell. Underworld Connections, Raptors Return, etc. He's going to bring in the Detention Sphere, Negate, and I'll probably bring in the Pithing Needle too. Keswick Wolf Run's a problem. He does have 2 answers to it, but Pithing Needle's good. Pithing Needle's great against a resolved Garrick of some sort. But besides that, he doesn't really have a whole lot. He already has a lot of main deck counter magic, which every counter spell is super good against Jund. Think about if Matthias had a few more land that game instead of maybe a couple of Wraths. If he's countering every turn after turn 4, he's probably going to win that game.
Yeah, especially in the first game because the Jund deck is so likely to have just random pieces of spot removal in their hand that aren't that helpful. If you are able to measure them 1-for-1 with your counter spells against their threats, their Huntmasters and their Thratos, eventually they're going to start choking on all of their dead draws, and then all you need is one big revelation to really take the game away.
Yeah, and he plays 4, so you definitely can easily set that up.
The post-board games are a little bit different as the Jund deck gets to remove some of their less efficient removal for the haymakers that you were talking about, the cards that are more productive of the games going along, your Underworld Connections and Duresses and Rourke Thars and what have you.
One thing Matthias doesn't have is any copies of Evil Twin, which I used to be about a 30% chance against Jund with Esper. After adding 3 to 4 Evil Twin from the main and the sideboard, it's definitely shot up to 50-50. Evil Twin is a powerful card against Huntmaster. A lot of opponents will, actually every opponent I've ever played will pass turn and say, kill your Huntmaster. I'm like, hold on, not so fast. Tap my Evil Twin, kill your Huntmaster, trigger on the stack. And it's a huge, huge play. You get your 2-2, you get your Huntmaster, you kill their Huntmaster. In this scenario, he really can't let anything stick. He's got to counter every creature that resolves, because even when you tap out for a Supreme Verdict on a Huntmaster that's resolved, you are petrified, because he's going to untap and do something real bad to you. A Garrick, a Return, a Liliana, a Underworld Connections. So we're pretty much at 11 counterspells after board on Matthias' side, so I guarantee you're going to see a game of draw-go from our control player standpoint.
Yeah, and what's nice, from Matthias' perspective, there are no copies of Cabinet of Souls in John's Jund list. You occasionally see 1 or 2.
Usually, yeah.
John has 0 copies, and so his counters are actually at pretty much maximum efficiency in this matchup.
This is the matchup where you want to have every card in your hand proxy to the counterspell. Because if you're countering every turn, you're in great shape. Like you said, he has to leave in some removal spells. He can't just die to a Restoration Needle. So he's going to leave in a couple and just, hopefully he has 1 or 2 of those in his hand. Counter his Thragtusk, his Olivia, and his Underworld Connections. They might have a few land left, a little bit of flooding, and then you're going to be smooth sailing from there.
Yeah.
Looks like we're presenting here. Let's hope we have a couple 7-card hands, have a good match.
Yeah, quickly down the game after keeping a 2-land without white mana hand and not finding a white source of mana nearly in time.
No, definitely not. Augur Bolas is it's a real teaser sometimes. It looks like you have a spell casting in your hand, ability, and you put a couple land on bottom and you feel real sad. I can't see his hand from here. It looks pretty land-white again, but that's just from my non-2020 vision squinting here.
Looks like he's keeping 7.
Yeah, so maybe, I'm sure he has a few more than I think here. All right, we have a 7 on 7 here. Yeah, he has a few more land than I thought. It's good. We have a Guildgate on turn 1. I joke with Guildgate, of course, because these M12 lands sometimes do that to you. Seems like a Guildgate. It looks like he has another tap land. He has a Farseek, but definitely a slow hand. Matthias had the 2-land Think Twice, which is almost an auto keep, I think. Oh, again, 2-land. This time he had to Think Twice. I can't really fault him. He has 3 draw steps to hit a land. That's really rough.
John, though, again, obviously no pressure. He's not really going to come out of the gates here. So
here comes a Farseek. Maybe he doesn't have a 3rd land either, or probably another coming to tap land. So Matthias has a Syncopate, which he does. All right, he did have a 3rd land. Now, we are just having a hard time here. I feel bad for my buddy over there. It's no fun when you can't play any spells. And John draws a Rootbound Crag, gives him red mana access. It looks like Liliana the Veil is coming down to play around Syncopate. And it's going to get negated instead.
So the counter's keeping Matthias' head above water here.
Yep. And again, I see the Dissipates in his hand, and he just needs a third land. He has another Syncopate in his hand, though. So it looks like he's going to play around that. He has Garrick, but there's no way you play that here. You play Huntmaster, and John is, of course, doing that, or Olivia. It's fine. Matthias actually isn't worried about that card. That card does relatively nothing in this matchup.
And there's an Encroaching Voice off the top.
We joke, and then it comes true. All right, hopefully it doesn't draw dragon.
Of all the you need 4 mana in the first place, and then it's a wasteland which you would never want to use in this spot here.
Never know. Looks like John is now going to play.
Cruel joke.
This is a cruel joke. Luckily, Matthias has Dissipates, at least one, and he's going to dissipate anything that is cast here. He cannot beat a card besides Olivia right now.
Yeah, it's very challenging to let anything resolve, especially Huntmaster when he's forced to play on his main phase once that card's in play.
Yeah, Matthias is obviously frustrated, and understandably so. Game 2, I don't fault his keep at all. I think it's one of those against Jun that you have a 2-land think twice, and he's got to pretty much hope there. And his hope is failing him. He looks like he's going to pay 2 more life, which lets him play Garrick around Syncopate. John's been playing very well, not letting Syncopate happen. But like I said, Matthias is just, that's all you want against John, right? You just want to have counter.
Fairbanks.
Still passes the turn back. And is this the point where John finally runs out of stuff? How much longer is it going to be?
It looks like Thragtusk is hitting the board here. Matthias has run out of counters. Think about if he has a land again here. He gets to syncopate, dissipate, negate, and just stop everything. And that's the dream. You don't even need any other cards in your deck. But without land, you're just...
Yep.
It doesn't look like... You're in Hollowed Fountain, I see, in the corner of the screen there. But I don't know if that's... He's at 11. He's facing down. Olivia's going to ping Thragtusk in the turn to get bigger. 9. No, he's dead. Unless Matthias does something to one of his creatures. That's 11 damage on the dot.
I mean, he can play his Hallowed Fountain on tap and then try to miracle a Terminus if it's still in his deck.
Right.
The Think Twice that he is available.
Yeah, that's an out. You definitely can't just say go here because he sees the writing on the wall as much as we do. And it's sad because I think that this control deck is probably the best suited to beat Jun. Obviously, when you have a whole match here where you're mana starved, you're not going to be able to put up a good fight. And it even looks like John, besides his Thragtusk here, probably would have run out of resources if this game played out a little differently. Alright, here comes Resto. Does John have 8 mana open? I think
he has 8 mana and 4 of it's red.
That is lethal though. Nothing that can be done.
And sees the writing on the wall and concedes. I assume Matthias was decided out his Terminuses. Which makes some sense because they're kind of marginal in the matchup. And he had the ability to think twice if it was still there.
I've noticed against Jun, I board out all but 2 Wraths effects because you're pretty much countering everything. Like, that's the plan. You just want to counter things. And if you leave in too many Wraths, those should be either Duress, Appetite for Brains, or Counter Magic to combat what Jun brings in against you.